Hello, we're going to start today by making your conclusion for your experiment. Now, you might be going, Miss Miller, we're not in language arts, we're in science class. Why are we doing a piece of writing? Well, what ends up happening is after you do an experiment, you have to be able to communicate out the information that you learned. So, one of the ways to structure this is by doing the same thing that you might have done in language arts, where you uh, restate the question, you answer the question, you cite evidence, then you explain, extend. So, how we're going to start this off is we're going to start off by restating and answering the question. We kind of mesh those two together in whenever we're trying to answer our investigative question. So, your investigative question was, how does catching a ball with one hand versus two hands affect the ability to catch? So, you need to answer this in a full sentence. It was easier to catch a ball with, we'll say, one hand instead of two hands. Or it was easier to catch the ball with two hands versus one hand. Or it didn't make any difference when I caught the ball with one hand or two hands. Well, how do you figure out what was easier? Well, that's when you look back at your data. One of the easiest places to find that is by looking at your quantitative data. And you look to see which one you caught more often. So did you catch the two-handed one more often or the one-handed one more often? Or did you catch them both the same? So that's one way that you can find out the answer to the first question. So pause the video, take a second, restate and answer your question. All right, so then next what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to be able to cite some evidence. So what you're going to do is you are going to go into your experiment and you're going to look at your data, both qualitative and quantitative. After you look at your data, you're going to find a piece of data here that matches that proves essentially your point. So one of the easiest places to look is look at your quantitative data. And what you can do is you can just essentially say the numbers for this. So I could say, let's say I caught with two hands 20 times and I caught with one hand 18 times. That would be a piece of evidence that I could put into cite evidence. I caught with one hand 10 or 18 times. I caught with two hands 20 times. Go ahead, pause the video, and write that down. Okay, our next thing that we need to do is we need to do some explain, extend, which is like your tell me more. So with that, you want to use a phrase like this proves or this shows. So you're trying to explain how your data proves your point. This shows that it's easier to catch with two hands because I caught with two hands more often than I caught with one. Or this proves that I was able to catch better with one hand because I caught more often than with two. So you can think about how that proves your point. So pause the video and write your explain extend. All right, our next thing is we have to go back and we have to find a second piece of evidence. So where I would probably go and look for a second piece of evidence is up here in your qualitative data. In your qualitative data, you should have written down, I know one thing, whenever I've done this experiment before, it has a tendency to bounce off my palm or that my fingers couldn't wrap or things like that. So that is what I would be writing in those squares up there. So I would cite a piece of evidence. When I was catching with one hand, it was difficult because it would bounce off of my hand because I couldn't wrap my hand around. Okay. So take one of your qualitative pieces of data and use that in order to write your next cite evidence. Okay, so now since you have your second piece of evidence, now what you're going to do is you're going to write your explain extend. How does that prove your point? It proves my point, or it shows that it is easier to catch with two hands because when I catch with two hands, it does not bounce. So go ahead, pause the video, write your explain extend. All right, then we have to do our last part, which is your conclusion. And one of the ways that I find easiest to write your conclusion is by taking the sentence that you used for restate and answer the question and just say it in a different way. So I might do, I just basically like rearrange the words essentially. So pause the video, give that a try. And hopefully by now you have a full raised paragraph. So reread over your raised paragraph, double check it. One of the things that I do to make sure my writing is a little bit nicer is I whisper read it to myself. And a lot of times that's one way I'm able to kind of catch little things that might have come up.